Hey everybody, welcome. Coach Cav, thanks for joining in. And as usual, per protocol, we'll allow a few minutes for everyone to come in, and then we'll look to start right at about 7:05. Thank you.
With all my favorite sunshine with the big blues, birds fly, and gray clouds, white walls, blue skies. We gon' fly, feel alright. Tonight we'll be alright. Now we gon' yeah. They sound like a the least that can tell, anticipate a homecoming parade as we renegade in the morning, sleep morning, with all my favorite colors right on, all my favorite colors, yes ma'am, my sisters and my brothers, see them like no other, all my favorite colors. It's a good day to be, a good day for me, a good day to see my baby colors. And my sisters and my brothers, she like no other, all my favorite colors. The tale go on, my tale burst up, I got a feeling, my baby closer. Yeah, I woke up, it's the morning time, the afternoon, the evening white. And I see all my favorite colors, all my favorite colors, right on, all my favorite colors, that's right. My sisters and my brothers, see them like no other, all my favorite colors. It's a good day to be, a good day for me, a good day to see my favorite colors.
All right, how's everybody doing this afternoon?
Great, great.
Good, and just to eliminate any rookie mistakes, I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay. I will take a no answer as a yes.
Cav, you're coming in good.
Kenny from New Jersey, how are you?
Number 2.
I'm great. I'm great. How are you tonight?
Good, good. Thanks for joining in. So we'll go ahead and get started this evening. I see some familiar faces in the audience. Some of you have invested with me previously, and some of you I've interacted with pretty frequently across social media. So good to see some familiar faces. But with you all coming back to hear me rant a little bit, that gives me some bit of confidence that something I'm telling you has resonated with you, good or bad. So thanks for joining in. So I've got one of my business partners in the room, Winston Perry. I'll give him a chance to introduce himself prior to jumping into everything. But today's session will be the first of many that we intend to do across major markets across the U.S. Really to give hosts out there, whether you're currently hosting or thinking about hosting, a look at your market and some specifics about your market and why we're qualified to do this is one, because we have taken on over 85 short-term rental investments and sharing economy investments as a whole across the country, from Olympia, Washington to Hawaii, cross over to New York City and down to as far as St. Pete, Florida, and in between. And that's a healthy mix of apartments with private investors. And most of our portfolio consists of single family homes, throw in an RV, throw in a tiny home, throw in tour vehicles, and you've got a healthy mix of sharing economy investments that we've touched in some capacity over the last 3 years. So all that means is that we've had a chance to see a lot of different markets, and we've deducted some very unique or key things from each market that doesn't change, right? And part of that, on top of the regulations for each market, we are going to look at least the Atlanta market, and then talk about some of what we're seeing, and then help investors that are in the market or thinking about entering the market think about their investment, a way to think about it, and where to specifically look to find success, right? And one of the key points, at least from our standpoint, and one of the things I think that we do uniquely different, right, is we look at markets from a value-based standpoint. And I'll talk about it in the slide during the presentation, but the end state and your takeaway from this, I want to change the way you think about and see Airbnb from a market research analysis standpoint, and what's important, right? Is it location or is it value? So we're going to answer that question and get some feedback from everybody, and have some fun while we go through this. Excuse me. So I'll let Winston introduce himself to the audience, and then we'll move on to the slides.
Hey team, how you doing? And thanks, Cav. It'd be quick. Been working with Cav for like the last 3-4 years, and as Cav mentioned, we've done quite a bit over that period of time, and pretty fast and furious. But some of the points he made, he was mentioning with regard to just how you look at different Airbnb investments and just short-term rental investments, but not just that, just how that investment can tie itself to the broader sharing economy, and add value. So it's just looking forward to the discussion and the points Cav's going to mention and we'll bring up. But yep, that's all I have. Thanks, Cav. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thanks, Winston. So what we'll talk about, state of the Atlanta Airbnb market, AirDNA, why or why not. Understand it's a popular tool, but I want to get some feedback from you all, and then help you all further understand our position on using third-party market tools that aggregate data to assess whether you should invest in any market. Homes versus apartments, huge topic, right? And because there are only two things out there, right? Minus tiny homes and other unique pieces of land, but especially in markets like Atlanta. So it is important, while we talk about Atlanta, to put the issue on the table and get some feedback from you all based on what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and then let's just put some facts out there, right? So we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about creating unique value, and you'll see the theme throughout this will be value, right? So I want you to get that in the back of your head, and we're going to change the parameters of the discussion around Airbnb, and help you better understand why value is the center of gravity. Operating in the sharing economy in Atlanta, And this is a no-brainer here. It's a huge market. And there are a number of sharing economy or gig economy services that exist. And some of them are ripe to incorporate with an Airbnb. And the way I want you to think about that is what services exist that can help me enhance, right, my guest experience. And Airbnb as a business, the most important part of any of this, I'm going to say for last, although I should open up with it, but what I want you all to take away from that part of it is this is a business, and I'll explain a little bit about the business side of it and some things you should consider, or some things you should be doing first, and then some things you should be considering if you're already running Airbnb as a business. So, excuse me, with that, this is a little bit about me. For those of you from Atlanta, I am originally from New Orleans, so don't hate me. We'll get over it, trust me. But no hard feelings with the way we beat up on the Falcons over the past couple of years. I'm active duty military, also a licensed nurse, husband and a father, coach, teach, and mentor is what I want to be, right? So tie that in. Sharing economy enthusiast, and as I mentioned before, a number of sharing economy investments that we've done across the country. My YouTube page has several podcasts. If you haven't seen any of them or heard any of them before, this is a list of a few of them that exist out there. And they range from sharing economy podcasts to short-term rentals, also some with real estate syndications and multifamily, and just looking at a range of different areas that I've been able to talk about. So my company, Your Space, right, here's in brief the operational framework and what we do. Provide a number of services, but we source homes through the rental arbitrage method. It is simply getting the right message to the right homeowners, and we've crafted an email template which we put into our email to lease program that allows us to send targeted emails to homeowners, and then we give them all information that they need to know upfront. So once we get in to have a discussion with them, in my football analogy, they are on the 20-yard line, and now we just have an investor to investor discussion about me running my business inside of their business, which is their home, in order to create a winning partnership there. Build is putting the right people inside the right plan or the right systems and processes, and that largely involves we hand the ball off to our interior design team, and then they're responsible for building the team on the ground. And in most cases, Winston has oversight of the build phase throughout its execution. And then we move to the management phase, where we do take on a management of some units. But we tie those right people that we bring in the build phase to the right technology. And that's what really enables us to do this from anywhere in the country, anytime. Right people, right technology. Pricing is unique. We won't get into it here, but we use our own pricing tool here at Your Space, and it's predicated around it's predicated around some business principles, right? Profit margins and targeted occupancy rates. And once we understand that from our investors, then we're able to better understand how to price them efficiently on top of the value they hold in the market. So what it gets us to is not relying on market data to price, and we price for the value we hold in the market, but we understand our numbers across the board. Now I'll show you an example once we get in. And then there's the coaching program. as some of you have signed up for or have seen recently, bi-weekly coaching and one-on-one coaching is offered for as one of our services. So my question for the group, and anyone can answer this, is Toys R Us. We all have heard of Toys R Us before. Can someone tell me why Toys R Us failed?
Lack of innovation and moving forward with the times, the online presence.
Can you repeat that, please? And who was it? What's your name? Sorry.
It's Robert, and I said a lack of innovation and not moving with the times and having an online presence.
Okay. Thanks, Robert. Anybody else?
This is Jay. They didn't adjust their pricing. Had a very static model, and they got passed up.
Okay, Jay, I like your point of view there too. We'll come back to that. Anybody else want to chime in?
I would say like Walmart, Target, those retailers started providing the same type of products for even cheaper. So the demand lessened.
Okay.
This is cheap.
No, all great points, right? So what would correlate a Toys R Us that failed to an Airbnb that doesn't do well in its market?
You're not adding unique value.
Okay. Anybody else? So this is a business, right? As I mentioned, and Toys R Us, as you all stated, right? Great points. Toys R Us failed for a number of reasons, but the bottom line is, right? They failed to offer the right value to their customers, and the underlying data showed that the markets were changing to more of an online marketplace, and they failed to adjust, right? And that led to a number of things, and ultimately they were chasing profits, which means they were raising prices when we were then able to get the same items at a cheaper price. And oh, by the way, we didn't have to leave our home to do it. So what you get from that is, right, Walmart and Target and Amazon ultimately offered us more value for our money. So that's where we went. And I asked that question about how does it correlate to an Airbnb that doesn't do well. But I want you to put your thinking cap on, and let's think about any Airbnb in any market that doesn't do well, right? They're missing something. They're not offering the right value in their market somewhere. Something's missing. And I'm going to leave that on the table as we go through. But I want you to think about that and think about this from a business standpoint first, and about value as much as about location and just having an Airbnb just to have one. So the Atlanta market, for those of you that are in the market or thinking about going into the market, but bottom line here is Atlanta has been back and forth at the city level with implementing some type of short-term rental regulations. But as it stands to date, there are no current laws permitting the use of short-term rentals on record. That may change, but based on what we've seen in some of the more recent meetings, any changes will probably be in favor of allowing short-term rentals to to help them economically move forward with taxes to benefit from short-term rentals. The Cobb Brookhaven area recently overturned a ban, and for anybody operating or thinking about operating in that particular area, just understand it's legal, but there's a 180-day cap annually. So what does that mean for you? There are some restrictions to doing Airbnb full time, so it benefits someone more with the in-law suite versus someone that's doing a remote type or arbitrage type Airbnb in that particular area. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself at risk for a short-term rental violation, which then may lead to a license being revoked. The South Fulton area, they also allow short-term rentals, and as you can see here, you've got the normal set of fees and license requirements, as most cities do to obtain it. And Macon, Georgia also allows. It looks like they've got a pretty easy process in place, and their registration process is free. And I think they renew automatically as long as there's no more than 2 violations per calendar year. So that's a look by and large at the regulations in the market. So what does that mean for everybody here? If you're currently operating, that means you're operating legally in the market. And if you're thinking about it, then you now understand that there's nothing on the books that's permitting you from opening up an Airbnb anywhere in the Atlanta market. So I'll pause here for any questions pertaining to the regulations before moving on.
Hey, Cav, it's Winston. Just a comment on it. You hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, just a comment. I think another important part here for the group is for those that are, already operating and think they may be operating kind of in the gray or just kind of in the fringes is, understanding these regulations, understanding these ordinances, that then you're able to kind of work within the parameters of those things, whether it's a specific regulation ordinance, or if you just happen to be, let's say you're operating inside of a housing association. So understanding those pieces within that pyramid from, top to bottom, as the state looks at it, the city looks at it, all the way down to your association, you're now able to create your box of how you're able to operate within that. For example, if the definition of that short-term rental is 30 days or more, or with regard to Cobb County being able to operate, with the 180-day cap. So that's pretty stringent right there. But in some cases, there's a date frame, a time frame, the amount of days you're able to do that. So then you're able to, as you're advertising, as you're leveraging other forums to market your short-term rental, you're able to work within those parameters. That's it, Cav.
Awesome. Any questions or comments on that from the group? Okay, so this slide's going to look a little foreign to most of you all, but the first thing after understanding regulations that we look at and that I want you all to start thinking about, right, are your traveler demographics in any particular area, right? So this is a chart that we came up with to better help us assess gaps in the market, right? From against the traveler demographics and other value points that we assess in the market. So I'm going to read this from left to right. So traveler demographics in any given area are going to change, right? So in Atlanta, Georgia, we'll have a significantly different travel demographic than a Denver, Colorado that's next to a ski lodge. So that's important to understand because that helps to drive your analysis in terms of understanding where the gaps exist. And then that determines where you start to look for a particular type of accommodation to list on Airbnb. So the market research and analysis becomes crucial to understanding when you're putting value in the market early on. And my apologies for this slide. I think it came out of whack when I transferred it over. But if you look here on the left, some of these value points or traveler demographics are very general to any market, right? A family with kids could be in any market. Families with pets could be in any market. Families with kids and pets could be in any market. The thing to understand about these travel demographics, and in some cases tied to amenities or filterable items in Airbnb, is that you can go in and select a box, right, for kid-friendly amenities. You can go in and select a box for pets, and I'll show you as we get to a later slide where I'll walk through a property that I have in Columbus, Georgia, and show you how it ranks once we align those filters and shows the value that it then holds in the market. One of the more unique travel demographics are large groups, right? And if you go in any city on Airbnb and you put in 10, 12, 14 people, the number of available listings, it's usually going to decrease pretty good. So understanding that in any market, and if the market has a demand for large groups, you should then be able to assess a new home's value in that particular market. Events, right? If you are afraid of events in some capacity, I will tell you that you should allow them, and with very specific house rules against those events and security deposits, right? So 3-4 years, we've taken a ton of events through Airbnb with pretty significant security deposit and not one issue, right? So there's a lot of value in being able to take on events, upcharge them, and then you hold the bag, right? You're holding the money, meaning the security deposit, and it's not being put in through Airbnb's checkbox. Medical professionals, everybody understands, no need to get into that, but if you're near a major metropolitan hospital that does a bunch of training and has travel nurses or other traveling medical professionals, then it's a no-brainer. That's one that you build your listing up to target. And the last one here, right? In my analysis of a lot of properties that we've done, when we do some of the research on them, no one has a handicap filter or the handicap accessibility options filled out. And simply put, that means you are less marketable to one more traveler demographic that exists. And even if it's just once or twice a year, it's a booking, it's money. So my point is, for the 5 minutes it takes to put in your listing, whether you have stairs or not, right? It's not your problem. You're just letting the customers or the guests know what you offer. And it's their choice to take it or not. But if no other homes in the area show any type of handicap accessibility, then you found a unique gap in the market that you can then potentially take some bookings against. Okay, so we cross over to the right, and what you see here in the middle, it says value or val-E, but value. And these are, by and large part, amenities in most cases that are filterable in Airbnb. And we've given them a point essentially for each one. So the deduction away from this slide is that when we look at the traveler demographics and we look at the value points against each of those specific bubbles, we give each market a grade, right? It's a 3+ traveler demographic plus value. Once we do that, we come away understanding what value we are going to offer in the market. And whether it's a small town like Enterprise, Alabama, or a major area like Atlanta or Houston, there are always gaps in the market. It's just understanding where they exist against the traveler demographics that are in the market. So I hope that made sense to everybody. I don't want to spend too much time here walking through this, but that's the way we look at markets, and it's all based on value offered in any particular market. But the goal is always to find where the gaps exist, and then we build listings to fill those gaps in the market. So once we're done, right, we celebrate once we've done our market research and analysis, because we know we're offering value and we're putting value in the market, right? The time to celebrate is not when you've launched your first listing. It's when you've done the right market research and analysis and you understand, what you're putting in the market. I'll pause there for any questions on traveler demographics and or amenities that we consider value points. Okay, so let's dive into the Atlanta market, right? And just some high-level data points that I pulled. What I want you to deduct from this slide is that Atlanta has obviously an apartment-heavy market, right? Like most major metropolitan areas. And if you look at the slide to the right, it shows you almost 60% of the available room types are 1-bedrooms. So the trick question for you all is, where's the market saturated in Atlanta? Anybody? Go ahead, sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you state your name and repeat your answer, please? Okay. Anybody else want to take a stab at it? Where's the market? The question was, where's the market saturated in Atlanta?
The 1-bedroom apartments.
1-bedroom apartments. So the deduction from this is, where are the market gaps potentially in Atlanta? Anybody?
This is Robert again. So anything from 3 and above rooms, houses, I guess shared spaces too. There's not enough shared spaces either.
And you can see that the average daily rate for an apartment, it's significantly lower by almost $100 a night than its counterpart in a home. So me just looking at the data, right, without doing a travel demographics drill down and then looking more at the amenities that are in the market, it tells me where to start my research, right? And then less than 1% of the market offers the following amenities. And here's where I want you all to follow me, right? And this is where we find a great degree of success in every market. And the thing I'll tell you is that when you look across your calendar, right, at each guest, you should be able to point to that guest and point to the value your place offered as to the reason they booked your place, right? That's what you should be able to take away from every reservation. And that's why we go back to the previous slide when I talked about the travel demographics and the amenities that give us value points. If someone leaves a message and says, hey, your place looks great, we're traveling with 2 kids and a dog, and we see you have a kid-friendly setup here, and my kids will love it, right? And you've got a playpen for the dog or whatever. But when you get that, you then correlate that to what you're offering, and then you now can correlate the value that you're offering, right? And you can do that across any amenity, but more specifically with the guest. And then over time, what that helps you understand is why people are booking, and then what you're not getting, right? You can also deduct that from the folks that are booking your place. But less than 1% of the Atlanta market, more specifically, has kid-friendly amenities, right? And I always say, look, kids are real things, right? If you don't believe people travel with kids, or, well, let me rephrase that. If you believe people travel with kids, then why in the world would you not have kid-friendly amenities in your Airbnb? It makes no sense to me why less than 1% of the market only has kid-friendly amenities, right? Same thing for pets. And I know some people feel differently about having pets and whatnot on their property because they get on furniture, they leave a bunch of pet hair. I get it. But at the end of the day, they do fall into a traveler demographic or with a traveler demographic. And they are a value point because it's a filterable item. So if you don't allow pets for whatever reason, or if you're getting into Airbnb for the first time and you're thinking about it, you're on the fence about it, I'll tell you that to go for it, right? At a minimum, give it a trial and set a pet fee that makes it worth it to you. And at least you offer the amenity, so you're searchable, and you might just get someone that's interested in your place because of the value, but that they say, hey, we're going to try to find a pet sitter because we don't want to take on the additional fee. But you don't take yourself out of the race, if that makes sense. Self check-in, a no-brainer, right? It's a box check in Airbnb, and most people offer it. But if someone goes in and they select the self check-in filter because they potentially don't want any interaction with anyone, there are only a handful of homes that will show up once that filter box is checked. So don't take yourself out of the running here with self check-ins and smart locks. Less than 8% of the market. Everybody has a smart lock today. It's not a very distinguishable item, but again, if someone's if they're looking for something that specific and they check that, then you subsequently take yourself out of the running here. So we'll come back to value, right? And on the left, our standard kid-friendly setup in every Airbnb, and the only thing that's missing here are educational posters that usually go around the wall. But just for context, everything in this picture is filterable, right? High chair, crib, playpen, kids' toys, kids' books, right? So what that means when I show you this Columbus case study, you will see how having these specific items allows us to not have to compete with everyone else in the market. And you can see my one of my favorite quotes here, but just to understand that Airbnb is popular and everybody wants to do it. So my whole point is never to. It comes back to the market research and analysis, but we don't want to just add supply to the market just because it's the cool thing to do, right? And get our first Airbnb, because eventually what happens is we get into what we call a race to the bottom, and at some point, like we did in Atlanta a couple of years ago, after the Super Bowl, where they had a 300 plus surplus of Airbnbs. The average nightly rate went from 159 in the Midtown Fourth Ward area where we were, down to about $65 a night immediately after the Super Bowl. And it was due to market saturation. And then what came out of that was we looked at that and said, we're just one of everybody else here, right? There was nothing that separated what we were doing in Atlanta from everybody else in the market. And that's what spurred this deeper dive and look at, how can you position yourself to be different and offer more value? And those places eventually went away, right? Just like most of those other short-term Airbnbs that came in after the Super Bowl. Everybody went down. We were fighting to get to $50 a night, and that's just a recipe for disaster, right? So that's not the place in the conversation we want to have. We want to make sure we're offering the right value in any market. So before I go on to homes versus apartments, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a new share, and can everybody see my screen here in Airbnb?
Yes.
Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through this very briefly, but understanding traveler demographics in Columbus, Georgia. We have a major military base, right? And we have large travel groups because of the frequent graduation. So when we looked at the traveler demographics for this particular area, we understood where the gap was with larger travel groups that were coming specifically week in and week out for these events. So understanding also that people travel, right, with kids and pets for these very special occasions to see their loved ones, we went after all homes in the market, and we built them out to meet those specific gaps in the market. So what this screen is showing you is, if you look here and you see in my guest box, I've got 10 guests shown, right? Now I'm going to come over to my filters. And as I mentioned, back to the value slide, right? And where we assess gaps in the market, you'll see I've got crib checked here because we offer it. I've got self-check-in checked here because we offer it. I've got a high chair, and I have pets selected. So how many homes am I competing with in this market against those unique travel demographics and value points? So you do the math there, and you look at the screen and you see two of my places. They're the first one and the third one. And the second one in the middle, trying to see how far it is away, but it's right south of my Midtown location. But either way, I have two of the three homes in the market that offer these specific amenities or value points, right? And this becomes sort of the key point of this conversation. So let's just say, and here's what I want you all to take away from this. You have to assume that when you're doing this, you want to assume that you've got a family of 10 traveling, right? And they're traveling with kids because it's general. They're traveling with pets because it's general. So they have amenities that they'll need and may require, and you want to offer those. And where you offer those now, right, you put yourself in position to not have to compete with everybody for every traveler demographic. So now, because I'm not competing with everyone for every traveler demographic, I can now set my rates just a bit higher in most cases in the market, right? And that's why it becomes pretty significant, because that means you hold, right, value in the market, and you're not competing with everyone for every traveler demographic. So I hope that made sense and related back to the couple points that I brought here. So I'm going to go back to the slideshow, and before I go back, I'm going to ask just a general question to the audience. Who has a preference for homes or apartments? Anybody? Or what's your preference, rather?
A house.
Okay, why is that?
Well, right now, because of the pandemic and the times we're in, don't want to be around a lot of people in shared spaces. So we'd rather have four walls to myself than have to walk out into other people walking into an entry of an apartment complex.
Fair. Thanks, Robert. Anybody else?
Same for
I would
me.
say,
You go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, I would say a house too, just for some of the value reasons that you mentioned, like the self check-in. I feel like it would be easier to change to a smart lock on a house, the free parking. You don't have to worry about a parking garage. And then after seeing your chart, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely need a house now for the average daily rate to be higher.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. Anybody else?
I would say a house just because of the flexible exits. So if something gets crazy again in terms of being able to short-term rentals, just a lot of other plays, especially if you have control over the deed, subject to owner finance, lease option.
Right. Great points, Jay. Great points. Anybody else?
Hey, Cav, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, for us, we have apartments. We don't arbitrage, we own, but we have multifamily apartments. And so it works really well for us. And we can do the smart locks and everything else. Of close to everything else that you mentioned. So that has that model has worked for us really well.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks for that. Anyone else? Okay, good. Hey, all great points, right? All great points. And one thing I like to share about homes versus apartments, and it's not that I'm anti-apartment, but I do understand there's some constraints associated with being in an apartment versus a home. And the apartments we do have in our portfolio, they are all with private investors who came to us and gave us bulk deals. For example, we're doing 10 on one floor in Louisville right now. We've got a couple in Arlington. We're doing a couple in Webster, a couple in Austin. So they're structured a bit differently, and we're not subject to a 12-month lease agreement. So they're positioned uniquely different, but there are pros and cons to both. And I think with apartments, they're typically city center. You have maintenance tied into apartments that alleviates you from having to resource that as you do with a home. And you essentially get to streamline a lot of what you do because you've got key fob systems or a key system, and once you have a good landing place for it, and you have someone that can walk up and go into the lockbox, whether it's Key Cafe or something, and then they go directly up to the apartment with their key card or fob. Now, the cons, right? And they're huge. First one being you don't have control of the asset, and that becomes the biggest problem for me because you're subject to their rules and regulations as it pertains to the operation of your business. The second point, there's a lack of a profitable exit plan, right? With a home, our exit strategy is always to turn it into a furnished long-term rental, right? Sort of a no-brainer, but and then the redundancy to that is to just move the furniture and market it as a regular long-term rental. And I think we all saw that happening during COVID, and for those of us that were able to do that successfully, we were able to maintain those assets and then turn them back over into short-term rentals a year later. But you just don't have that with apartments. So a bulk of the Airbnb hosts that went out of business, to include some major players, right? You had Domino, you had a couple of the others, names not coming to me right now, but
Stay Alfred,
and there's another one. They were initially tied to Airbnb, but they all went out of business, right? And them going out of business was a testament to a lack of a profitable exit plan. So just understand that risk exists. And the next point is you're never guaranteed your next 12 to 15 months because apartment complexes have a business decision to make. So if an investor comes in to take 5 or 10% of their corporate allocation, and you're just hanging there right by yourself on a single corporate lease, that becomes a business decision and not anything personal against you, but you may not have a chance to recoup your initial investment within a 12-month time frame. So it does bring some degree of risk there. There's a lack of shared economy investment opportunities, and this probably hits a little bit more on our investment strategy and our look into the sharing economy, but we can't fit that model into apartments, even in the ones that we're in. we can't do it. And the last two are really about market saturation, right? We looked at the Atlanta style. We understood that preponderance of the market was in apartments and one bedroom. So what does that tell us, right? The popular thing to do in Atlanta is to get an apartment city center and reduce our costs by getting a studio or a one bedroom apartment and put it on the market. So then we begin to saturate the market with a bunch of average places, and you just can't facilitate a larger head to bed ratio. But while I'm on that point, and I didn't point it out earlier in the market research and analysis, but your head to bed ratio becomes key at any bedroom size. And I want you all to follow me here, right? So even if you're entering the market and it's saturated, let's say in a one bedroom heavy market, that does not preclude you, right, from getting a advantage from a head to bed ratio standpoint. And here's what I mean by that. I'll use an example of an apartment that I have in Houston, within walking distance from the Texas Medical Center. It's a one bedroom apartment. It's about 875 or so square foot. When we did our market research and analysis, the main thing was the hospital's travel demographics, right? Because you have patients that come for specialty care that they can't get anywhere else. So that means there's going to be a constant demand. It's also a training hospital, which means there's a constant rotation of medical professionals, and it's within walking distance, and it's downtown. So when you put all those factors together, what you come to understand is that the location it's great, and it's got the right value points to allow it to do well. Now, that also means it's subject to saturation. So how do you beat that, right? Yes, pets, kids allow us to close that gap. But the main thing here, where we add significant value to smaller places, is the head to bed ratio. And we simply increase the head to bed ratio by buying off of Amazon floor mattresses, right? And they're tucked away in the closet. So they don't necessarily take away from the way the place looks, right, visually. But all we're saying here is that we bet that the person that's looking for the most value in a great location will opt to pay me a better rate for a one bedroom that they can sleep all 6 or 7 of their people due to the location, as opposed to going to a 2 bedroom, right, that's a little bit outside of downtown, right? So follow me what I'm saying here, and understand that we do that at every bedroom size, right? So if it's a one bedroom, we're gonna assess the market from a head to bed ratio standpoint, and we're gonna beat the market average, right? So we offer 2 bedroom value in a one bedroom, and look at that from every bedroom. In a 2 bedroom, we're gonna offer 3 bedroom value. In a 3 bedroom, we're gonna offer 4, and in some cases 5 bedroom value, right? Just like these homes I showed you in Columbus. They're all 3 bedroom homes, or my 2 here are 3 bedroom homes, and they sleep 12 to 14 apiece, right? So all that means is they hold value in their market, because we have a head to bed ratio advantage in each of our places. So it allows us to hold some positional value in the market. So with homes, right? The big thing here is control, right? So when we take on homes, one, we do a master lease agreement. We take on homes at a minimum of 3 years, and then we also sign up, right, as a property manager. So that becomes a win-win partnership for homeowners, because we're stabilizing their investment and we're going to manage it. So we reduce their management fees by $1,000 to $2,000 a year. But that allows us to execute our profitable exit plans, right? And we essentially get to do what we want with the property for the duration of the time that we take it on. And that bleeds into my next point, right? And any investor here understands that the key to any investment becomes leverage. Where you can leverage any investment, regardless of how you take it on or how you hold it, becomes a win-win proposition. And our look again is in the shared economy, right? And in some cases, some homes are dual listed on Peerspace. We've got Turo rental vehicles. We've hired eating services, massage services. As I mentioned, we've got an RV, and just adding a tiny home to the portfolio. But along with the events, weddings, baby showers, etc., we are able to fully leverage these spaces in homes through the sharing economy lens. So that becomes key, and it fits a little bit more of our model. But if you take that, or if I give you a scenario where I say, in scenario A, I say, hey, look, 25, you'll take 25 guests, and I'll give you 25 guests in one weekend, and you can pull in $10,000. And scenario B, I say, same 25 guests in your place, but it's going to take you 3 months to make that. So without giving you any specifics, everybody in their right mind will take 25 guests over 2 days to make 10 grand, right? So this is where I come back to, operating the sharing economy. And I'll show you guys a slide later here in a little bit that shows exactly how that can be done with operating in the sharing economy and being able to dual purpose homes, more specifically to leverage them, right? Now, this is something we do uniquely different and uniquely well, right? The last point here with homes, and you can do this with apartments too, as we've done, but follow me as I walk you through this scenario. You've got a basketball team that's arriving to a city. The team consists of 40 people total, and they have to spread out across 3 hotels because there's just not enough open hotel rooms in any one to house them all, right? So picture that. And we know that that's a doable thing, right? It's highly likely, without having any evidence in front of us, that that's probably happened with a sports team or any large group. They've had to spread themselves out geographically because of a lack of accommodations in one area, in one place. So we look at that same scenario and we say, well, why the heck can't we do that with our homes that are geographically located, right? And now, right, we start to have a special party, right? And being able to aggregate homes and or apartments that are geographically located, what it does is it creates truly unique value from a head to bid ratio standpoint in a market. And if you go to a market and you're able to sleep, I know you can only do 16, but in the summary you can write how many you actually sleep. But if you're in a market and you can sleep, 16 plus people in the filter box or in the guest box, but you can actually hold 20. And when you look at how many homes in that market can sleep 16 people, and there's only 2 or 3, depending on the market, what do you have on your plate there? Right? You've got some unique value that you're then able to leverage, right, from a pricing standpoint on that combined listing and really start to drive profit margins, right, through the roof in some cases. And I'm going to share another screen with you. So in Savannah, Georgia, let me go to another one here. Bear with me 1 second. In Savannah, Georgia, this particular listing is called the Duren Duo, right? We tag all of our combined listings as duo listings. But what this is showing you is that they're 2 apartments in 1 building. They sleep 8, right? Sleep 8 apiece, and then when we combine them, they sleep 16. They book per night somewhere between 150 to 300 on a good day. Now, the market difference, being able to book them or list them together and put them on the market, as you can see here, the prices are $850 a night, right? And I have a 3-night minimum and a $350 cleaning fee, right? And that's because in Savannah, to sleep 16, that far downtown, there's only 4 other homes that I'm competing with. There are others in the market, but they're further back. So from a pricing standpoint, I now understand the value that this place holds in the market. So I'm not letting anybody in for any less than $850 a night, right? So you put that on the table when you're able to aggregate listings or homes or apartments that are geographically located, and you get yourself into a situation to where you're not competing with everybody from a head-to-bed ratio standpoint. Then you get to set prices in the market based on your value in the market. And if you're looking at this calendar, you don't see any price fluctuations here. I'm not budging, and I don't have to, right? Because the demand's there based on what we understand about the traveler demographics in the area. And there's not a lot of competition for that specific traveler demographic. So that creates a win-win situation. Now, we've had cases on these dual listings, especially in Savannah, because there's another one there also, where we've had a 3 or 4 day booking for almost $3,000, right? That's astronomical. That's astronomical. But this is how we create unique value, right, in a market. And when I say creating unique value, right, this didn't exist before we aggregated the listing. That's what's important to understand. So the 2 listings separately held their own, but combined, right, we created unique value in this market because we understand it, and now we're able to charge a premium for it. So takeaway there, being that as you look at markets and getting into an Airbnb, if there's an opportunity to either partner, right, with someone you know really well that you don't mind doing business with, like me, or you have an opportunity to take on more than one home, right? In your market research and analysis, go ahead and put in 12 to 16 people, right? And see how many listings exist in that area. And you're going to find the gaps in the market pretty quickly, right? But again, it's doable with homes and also with apartments. And we've done both with both homes and apartments. So keep that in your back pocket, right? As you think about or look at expanding your portfolio. So I'll pause there for any questions before I go to the next slide.
You there, Coach?
Okay.
Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, sorry. Just wondering, do you ever have any kind of issues with like fire code or any kind of issues with having like 6 people in a room?
The question is reference fire code for any of these places where we sleep up to 16 people between 1 or 2 listings.
Correct.
No, haven't had any up to this point. Now, look, most places do have regulations around that, but that's not something that that's enforced heavily in any market, as far as I understand, and we've certainly never ran into an issue more specifically with that. Great question, though.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach, I had a quick question about the kid-friendly spaces. Are those pictures, are the equipment just there for the pictures and then they put in a closet, or do you leave them out? The reason I ask, I'm saying you don't want to alienate, like you said, the football team or a basketball team coming. Just wanted to know.
No, we'll leave them out, right? And once people arrive, we let them do what they want to do when they show up. So the whole saying here is that we let you adult, right? We don't want to tell you. We're going to give you the cake, but we don't necessarily want to tell you how to cut it. So if they put them away, that's on them. But we'll leave them out just in general. So that we're thinking about the mom that comes in with, or mom and dad that comes in with 4 kids at 11 p.m. and they can just walk right in and get them settled without having to pull that stuff out of the closet and put it together.
Hey, Cav, man, a lot of times we kind of leave that with the housekeeper too at times, because they've got full visibility to guests coming in, the guest count coming in, and they're able to see some of the message traffic. If that, they've got an infant with a car seat or a stroller, or, those unique requirements. So then, that can already be staged to a degree for those kids coming in, or the water for the dog coming in as well. So in some cases, we leave that to the housekeeper to be able to see that, have visibility, and prep the place as required.
Awesome.
Hey, Cav, I'm surprised there's not a lot more questions on the combined listings, because or people are just drinking water, trying to catch up with it. But group, this is a big thing right now. Well, when I say it's a big thing, it's when Cav and I ran into the inquiry or two with some of these combined listings, we're just like, wow. And
yeah, that was my question.
That's taking a small place, for example, a small studio in Olympia, Washington, that's on a floor with 3 other studios, and combining them. So now you can hold 12 to 13 people in 3 studios in downtown Olympia. Well, you'll never find that occupancy in downtown Olympia, Washington. And now you're charging twice the amount that those studios, twice and a half the amount those studios were actually going for originally. So this can be done with a small studio apartment that you've noticed another listing is next door, and you partner with that person and have a combined listing. Or if it's a 3 to 4 bedroom home and you notice somebody down the street has something similar as well. So and as Cav mentioned, this only takes about maybe 30, 40 minutes to just build the additional listing, to link the calendars, and you've got an amazing bid that just occurred with your profit margins.
Are you listing the separate listings? Are you combining them, or are they taken down and just made into the 2?
Yeah, so absolutely. You if it's 2 homes on the same block, those 2 homes have individual listings. And then there's an additional listing with those two homes combined. And then you partner up with somebody else, and now you've got a third listing with all three of those combined. But it just provides you a degree of flexibility that you would not have, and the additional value you wouldn't have in that area, where when you start filtering, you will never find that home that has that occupancy rate that can take on that wedding party that's coming to the area, or that basketball team, or that soccer team, or you name it. But just being able to create that's a pretty interesting discussion. Hey, go ahead, Cav.
Awesome. Any other questions there before I move on and talk a little bit about AirDNA?
For the Amazon beds, I know you mentioned putting them in the closet. How exactly, because closets are different sizes. Are the Amazon beds, packaged a certain way, or how are they fitting in the closet?
Yeah, they're foldable mattresses, so they pack away pretty easily. But in some cases we've had to buy a clothing, not a clothing bag, but a linen bag, and just tuck them under the bed, right? So the point is that you have them available. So again, you provide the cake, but when people show up, they cut the cake how they want, and that doesn't become your problem once they've booked, right? Because they're booking for the value you offer, and not so much the type of beds that they're getting. But you can store them anywhere once you get them in there.
Are you talking about air mattress?
No, so we went away from air mattresses, and a lot of it because we operate remotely. So we ran into a couple of midnight issues, right? And you just learn through experience over time what works and what doesn't. But if someone shows up at midnight after a 12-hour flight and the air mattress becomes leaky somehow, and you've got a problem on your hand that you can't solve, right? So we went, to spend a little bit extra money on the fold-up mattresses. So, they're a little bit more durable. They're not subject to midnight problems. And you've just got to provide the linen to go with them, and you're golden.
Roger that. Thank you.
Okay, so who has used, anybody, right, AirDNA to assess a market and determine whether they should invest in that market or not? Anybody?
Yes, I've used it.
Okay. Anybody else?
I've played with it, but I have not used it specifically to invest with. I put time into it, messing with it.
Hey, is it Chi or Chai? I don't want.
It's Chi.
Okay, so Chi, share with us the reason why you used their DNA, and then what did you get from it doing your research?
Well, doing my research, what I did ultimately was I only used the rentalizer tool. With the rentalizer tool, it basically gives you the ability to put in a specific address into it, list the amount of rooms or bedrooms, and kind of look at the occupancy rate in comparison with the daily average rate. So that's what I didn't use it as the ultimate decision maker, but I use it as a reference more so.
Okay. Anyone else used AirDNA before to do some market research and analysis?
I've used it.
Okay. What did you get from it, Jess?
What I did was
I pulled the data in some of the most like the up and coming markets, and I compared it to the property values on Zillow, just to kind of get an idea of what that revenue would potentially bring. So comparing what Airbnb estimates the revenue to be versus what the house prices were in the up and coming markets, just to see if it's something I would be interested in investing in. But I do know there are some gaps associated with the data in Airbnb. You know, if I want to do like long distance or remote investments, what it did for me is it kind of gave me a glance of a market that I probably would not have taken into consideration. So a lot of cabins and things like that that are a little bit remote, but still in cute towns that I'm intending to explore, you know, Georgia mountain-ish areas or in Tennessee or something on the other side of the North America.
Right, awesome. So AirDNA, my favorite and least favorite tool to use or talk about as it pertains to its utilization and assessing the value of any market. And it's not a bad tool because it does provide some useful data. But I think what I want you all to understand is that it's aggregated data. So it's an aggregation of what a 1-bedroom's charging versus a 4-bedroom that are priced $400 apart in a market. But when you take all of that data and you put it together, you get market averages that can be a false positive, if you will, to investors that are looking at a tool like that to determine or make a decision as to whether they should invest in a market or not. So I will just come back to the Savannah listing that I showed you all, the duo listing, and back to a couple of other points, and help you understand why AirDNA cannot assess the value your place holds in the market, right? And the homes I showed in Columbus, Georgia, all now, right, booked for 125, 150, in some cases on the weekends, 175 or better. In AirDNA, Columbus, Georgia is a $100 market, right? If I were to rely on AirDNA's data to invest in and subsequently to set my price points, one, I would be underpriced, and two, I may not be interested because the margins may not look favorable to me, and two, I would be underpriced, right? But my bigger point is that, right, if you do the right market research and analysis and you understand the gaps in the market, and then you build listings to fill those gaps, coming back to my 2 properties that were shown here in Columbus, I now can charge, right, price the market to my value in the market. And that's what an AirDNA can't tell you, right? It absolutely cannot assess your value in the market. And I'll go back to the Savannah listing, the dual listing, and say that there's no pricing tool or pricing analysis software that will price me at $850 a night, right? It doesn't exist. So at the end of the day, you've got to understand the value you hold in the market, and then you've got to be able to price to your value and not to aggregated market data, right? And there's only one way to do that, and there's only one person to understand that understands that, and that's you, right? So pricing tools like Wheelhouse and Beyond Pricing and Price Labs are good and they're useful, and we do use them because they help you predict or understand where the demand is, and that's their most useful piece. So they'll give you real-time updates on the current demand in a given market and adjust your prices based on that. So what you'll see is, for instance, that Savannah listing that's set at $850 a night. If the demand spikes and the supply drops, right, Wheelhouse will then bump that price up. In some cases, I've seen it go as high as $1250, right, for a particular weekend. And that's the uniqueness of understanding your value, pricing to your value, and then allowing a third-party pricing tool to then adjust, right, your prices up based on the supply and demand in a market. But the takeaway here is that that's just a plus on your profit margins at the end of the day. With that, so again, AirDNA, good tool, but should not be used in any circumstances to determine whether investing in any market is good or bad. You assess that based on the market research and analysis that we walk through and help once you understand the market and the gaps that exist, right? So hopefully I didn't bust any AirDNA bubbles, but just wanted you all to be aware of the tool and its usefulness. So moving on to sharing economy. Again, I mentioned earlier the Atlanta market. It's huge, and you've got a lot of people doing a lot of great things in that market, and utilizing a lot of services. But what I'll share with you is that Airbnb in the sharing economy, gig economy services is the center of gravity. And for us, in our interest, right, they bring us the guest that's spending the money, which is important because now we then get to market other resources to those guests that are coming to our homes. And I've outlined here on the slide a number of services that exist and put there in black, some that are very specific and can be uniquely aligned with Airbnb and or tied to a home that you're leveraging, right? The biggest one and the first one you should always consider when doing this is to dual list your place on Airbnb and Peerspace. And Peerspace, for those of you who may not be familiar, it is the Airbnb of events, right? But more specifically for events. And you can have production events or production movie shoots, weddings, baby showers, photography, or meetups, right? Small meeting engagements. So it allows you to list a variety of events that you can do from the same home that you are running in Airbnb. Now, the important deduction from that is if Airbnb in most cases is your primary income driver, and you are also hosting events on Peerspace, you can do 5 minutes worth of market research to see every listing on Peerspace in your area that offers events. You can then underprice them, because in most cases, commercial spaces are more dependent upon Peerspace income to pay bills, as in your case, you're not, right? So by underpricing the market in Peerspace when it's dual listed as an Airbnb, helps you. You're going to get a ton of inquiries like we do, almost 2 a day in Atlanta. And then where time allows, right, you're able to increase your profit margins. And then we come back to this holistic discussion about operating Airbnb. And then if we're able to increase our profit margins through a service like Peerspace, then we're not having as broad of a conversation about my occupancy rates, right? I can be at 50% occupied, but bringing in additional income through Peerspace, that's still allowing me to profit big time. So think about that as you move forward. Always consider Peerspace for events. And one of the other reasons we allow events with our Airbnbs is because sometimes, depending on how long they're booking for and the type of event they want to have, for example, if they're coming for 4 days, but they have this very specific event that they're doing on a Saturday, you can separate that and push them to book the event more specifically through Peerspace. And in cases like that, we would charge them a security deposit to host the event, or charge them an event fee in Airbnb to host the event. But instead of doing that, we get to charge them by the hour in Peerspace, and then allow them to book the Airbnb at a discounted price, but host the event through Peerspace, because Peerspace has all the tools and the resources to host events and everything you need built into the platform. So it becomes a win-win for you from a protection standpoint, because Airbnb doesn't necessarily protect you from hosting events, because the platform's just not built for it, right? And we've all seen the news with massive parties and some of the lawsuits and whatnot that's came out of those. But Peerspace in your homes. Turo, most of you are familiar now with Turo. It wasn't a popular thing back then, but we now understand Turo, Uber, Hire, Lyft. They've all contributed to Hertz going bankrupt, right? So Hertz in this case, a la Toys R Us, stop offering enough value in their market. Pandemic significantly affected travel. None of these huge companies that were based around major airports shifted their strategies to more of a shared economy offering. And as a result, one of the biggest just filed for bankruptcy, which to me is pretty silly, right? To say they hold that significant of inventory around the country and not to change with the emerging markets. But either way, Turo is here. It's here to stay. They are consistently upgrading their platform. Now they even offer remote start, right? So you can list your car and someone can book it and not have to do a key exchange, right? As a couple of years ago, we were putting a lockbox in the window. So they walk up and put the code in and then grab the keys and do the key exchange. But having a Turo pre-positioned at an Airbnb or just in general, right, is a plus, especially in big cities that are near airports where the demand for transportation is there. I mentioned we've got an RV. I don't want to dive too far into it, but that came about really understanding the market and the new travel, right? The staycations and every other word of cation you want to throw out there that was born as a result of the pandemic. And RVs now fill a unique need in niche in the travel market because of that COVID, right? That COVID virus or whatever you want to call it. But as you're thinking about your future investments, if you have a question or concerns about investing in an RV and what it takes, what does the maintenance look like, feel free to reach out and we'll get you in touch with Winston, and he will walk you through in detail what it takes to operate and help you look at and understand some of the numbers. But some of the other stuff, it's out there. You understand Instacart delivers groceries. You can use Thumbtack to hire a number of vendors that can also service your property. So the takeaway here is, as you look at this picture in the lower right-hand corner, this is sort of what we aim, right? This is the goal. In a house one day, right? Dog walking services. We're operating Airbnb. We've got a photo studio in one room. We've got a Peerspace set up in the middle. We've got a chef getting groceries delivered from Instacart. RVs parked outside. It's plugged in. We've got tour cars in the garage, and we've got a boat, right? If the place is near the water for folks to rent and go out on the water to enjoy an evening. But again, all services that exist are centered around people, right? And Airbnb brings those people in. So now you're only limited to your imagination, and in this case, you're limited to what exists in a sharing economy. But there's services out there that can be leveraged to help drive profits. So this happened, right? Home that we have in Somerville on 6 November, we had a Peerspace booking from 8 to 12. A chef came in, he wanted to do a brunch and a cooking class. We have a 4-hour minimum, and it was $200 an hour plus $100 or so cleaning fee. That same day, we had a 4 p.m. check-in. 12 guests. I think there were a baseball team coming to town for some tournament. But the weekend minimum is $350 a night at that particular home. So you put that together, and what you get a $3K weekend, which means almost all the bills were paid in one weekend. And it gets back to the example I gave earlier about, right, having 25 people and earning 10K in one weekend versus the same 25 people and it taking 3 months to make the same amount of money, right? If we were not looking at and understanding what exists in the sharing economy and how to leverage, right, a space and create value or unique value, in this case, in our market, this would have never been possible. So just understanding where you're able to leverage Peerspace and a service like that with an Airbnb allows you to create unique value in the market. And in this home more specifically, because it's dual purpose in a competitive Somerville, Charleston market, we're still not competing with everyone, mainly because we're offering unique value through Peerspace. And as we take these bookings, you can see there in the top example how it allows us to increase our profit margins pretty significantly when we're able to do things like this. I'll pause here for any questions before I hit the final slide.
Question about Peerspace and decorating. Do you have a higher furnishing and decor budget if you're aiming for Peerspace? Because I'm looking at these pictures and they look real decorated. So I say, is there a higher standard in decorating?
I'll give you the lawyer answer and tell you it depends, right? But it does, because this home in Somerville, understanding the demographics in a Charleston area, led us to a different design. The home in Atlanta, for example, that's doing the same thing, it is mostly Wayfair and Amazon, but they both serve unique purposes in their particular market, and to still operate and do this and be successful requires just a different level of financial input to them.
Hey, Cav, I could add on to that. The home in Hampton there in Hampton, Virginia. I mean, it's a regular 4-bedroom house, but it's got a pretty nice bathroom, and it just so happens that it's in the right location where it gets perfect sunlight through the master bedroom window midday. So photographers love that master bedroom. Why? Because they can do, some boudoir settings. They can use the bathroom and do milk baths for like Valentine's Day and stuff, or like maternity type photos. And then just the living space the way it is, with Amazon and marketplace furniture, real nice. They can sit by the fireplace and do some like family photos there. So any location, any spot could lend itself well for the average photographer that's out there, that's up and coming, to use a space to build their portfolio, for example. And they're all over the place now. There's photographers all over the place looking for spaces to just build their portfolio, because they won't be able to find a nice soak tub inside of a room, or a nice bedroom, unless they're renting a hotel, or just renting another space. So I just offer that.
Yeah, great points. And just going back to my previous slide, that you see parked there in the lower right-hand corner. If you've ever been to a photo studio, or you understand how mobile they are, you can have a photo, a very uniquely designed photo backdrop, or an accent wallpaper, right, in a home, have 2 accent chairs that maybe they stay in the garage because they're just there for picture purposes, and you can have yourself a dedicated photo space in any home that you can list on Peerspace for that specific, to offer that specific service. Again, and so all I'm trying to get you to think about here is, right, how do you maximize the use of any space, right? But these are some of the resources that exist that allow you to do it, and do it now and then. Again, because you're doing this in the home, and the service is not the primary income driver, then you get to underprice the market and drive your demand up. So that becomes a pretty significant thing, especially if you're in a market where your Mondays through Wednesdays or Thursdays are slow, right? This is where it's at, and you can increase your profit margins pretty significantly. So here's my, not many people have seen this, so I consider you all special, but this is the value slide, right? And what I want you to take away from this are these key points as I sort of walk through them a little bit. I talked about a few of these as we went along, but the first point is you've got to assume that there are 2 to 3 new listings every month in your area, regardless of where you are, right? So understanding that markets saturate, you've got to constantly be on the lookout, right? If you're Toys R Us, for Walmart, Target, and Amazon, right? Because they're coming. So how do you continue to assess where you are from a value standpoint, and then making sure you're offering value in your market, right? The second point you've got to assume every new listing will be clean, pristine, nicely designed, and have some bit of wow factor, right? So just put yourself there mentally when you think about these 2 to 3 new places that are coming per month. So now then what separates, right, all these new, clean, pristine, nice listings? What then separates them, right? Third point is you can't overprice your value in a market. And I reference that frequently, but again, you've got to understand the value you hold in the market, and then professionally price to your value, and then subsequently utilize pricing tools to drive up pricing when the supply is low and the demand's high. But this all starts with understanding the value you offer in the market, right? And as I say, look, none of you will go to Walmart and pay $7 for a Twix, right? And the guests won't pay $200 for a listing that's worth $69. It just doesn't work out that way. So you've got to understand that's key. Your value offer trumps the location, and again, that's directly tied to nightly rates. And you can see in my writing under here about AirDNA not being able to assess the value that you hold in the market. And the thing I'll tell you is, and we've seen it over and over again, if you offer the right value and you're 10 minutes outside of downtown, people will pay, right, to stay at your place versus the place that's city center and doesn't offer the same value, right? Because we're value shoppers, right? That's the reason why Black Friday and any other sale perks our attention, because they're offering us something of value. And I don't want you all to lose sight of that from a business standpoint. Value is the center of gravity, and where you offer value, you typically find success. And next point, right, and it's highlighted for a reason. The value you offer today is only as valuable as today, right? And that ties back to the first and the second point, really, and understanding that markets are evolving, right? The traveler demographics are evolving, markets are saturating. So you've got to constantly reassess your position in the market and understand as demographics are changing. And a lot of that's tied to the local economics. So if there's an Amazon coming, or there's a water park coming, or they're building a ski slope, you've got to understand that that's going to change the travel demographics in your market. So how do you then reposition yourself to again not end up like Toys R Us? So understand that, and the next time you all see a comment on Facebook, and trust me, it's going to happen tomorrow, that somebody's going to ask, why isn't my place doing as well as it was last year, right? I was charging $200 a night last year, and now I'm only able to get 150. Come back to this slide and look at these points, and the question then becomes, right, for that person, right, what value are you offering in your market, and have you reassessed your value due to the changing travel demographics or just the changing marketplace, right? So something's changed that caused that, right? It just didn't happen, right? It wasn't somebody plucking their finger and saying, well, this listing's gonna do bad, right? It's not gonna do as well as it did last year, right? So that person, right? They are looking like Toys R Us to us now, right? That's what I want you to think about, the giraffe, when you see that question. And last point being, right, after 6 to 9 months, if you're not selling more inventory at a higher rate, then you're not offering enough value. And I know that seems a bit scary, but on average, and again, if you're offering the right value, then you're able to price to your value in the market. And that's why you've got to constantly reassess your value in the market and look for ways to add more. So over time, you're able to increase your rates due to the value you offer and not due to anything else that's associated with the data, right, in any particular market. Any questions on any of this on this slide? Sweet. Well, we are right on time, almost 9 o'clock, and I am grateful and thankful for you all sitting here for almost 2 hours to listen to me rant a little bit about value and some other points and theories that exist. But for anyone that's looking for additional information, I just want you all to know that we do offer coaching services. There's a course that's out there. I think it may still be on sale. I'm not necessarily sure, but coaching services and the course and then some other freebies that are out there pre-positioned on an ad that's floating. But hopefully this was of some value to you all, and you took away some points, and now walking away from this, you're thinking about and assessing markets differently and understanding that it's about the value that you offer, and you have to consistently look at your position in the market, and the goal is to not end up like Toys R Us at the end of the day. So I will pause here for any closing questions before going away for the night.
Thanks for your time, man.
Thanks, John. And so for everybody else, the look at the different markets, we'll look to do this every other Thursday in a different market to look at those markets and look at more specifically some of our places and how they're doing in those markets, but look at it and understand the gaps that exist. And obviously the regulations on top of everything else being key. And then each market, right, when you start to think about homes and apartments, they all have their own different flavor and twist to it. But that's some of the funness about being able to do some good market research and analysis and understanding how you can position yourself in all of these different markets for your places to do well. So with that, I'm going to close out. Again, thank you all for hopping on tonight and giving me 2 hours of your time. And feel free, again, not mandatory, but feel free on any of the posts that we've got out there on social media to drop a comment about the session and let everybody know if it was of some value to you. But with that, I'm going to close out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thanks, everybody.